young, I was told that there was a creek lined with gold, solid gold.
Hey everyone, welcome back for episode 2. In this episode, we're going to explore the bluff, as you see right here. It's located on the southeast side of the claim. We're going to test 3 different spots on this exposed bluff, and then we're going to hike up to this scree field here looking for the source. Over here is another exposed area. The bluff consists of many granite rocks of various sizes, all held together with this gold-bearing dirt. Working the dirt out of the cracks and crevices will reveal these granite boulders that can then be removed. Like pieces of a giant 3D puzzle, it's just one boulder after another. So let's head over to the bluff and run some dirt. May 29th is when the creek was finally low enough from the winter melt that we were able to cross and begin exploring the bluff. Here you see a nice perspective looking up from the creek. Many boulders piled from previous prospectors. Here is Illinois Bob and Louie doing some prospecting in the cracks. You see the leaves on the trees just starting to come out. So once again, we took quarter-yard samples from 3 different spots on this bluff, and we settled on this corner as it was the most accessible and easiest to get the material from. We would spend a few days knocking material down into that pit, and then I would load up these buckets, slide it down in this trough that Paul had left there the previous years, and Bob would bring it down and dump it into the back of the side-by-side, and we'd run 10 buckets down to the high banker. So there must be a better way. This is just taking too much time and effort. So what we did is we got the light and used some of Paul's equipment that he had left here from the previous year. We took one of his water tubes that was already splayed out, put a grate here on the end of it to help facilitate the material go down the tube smoothly, and it made our life a lot easier. Bob's happier, I'm happier. We're running a whole lot of material. With this tube, we were able to do a yard a week very easily.
Hi-ho, hi-ho, it's off to work we go. Do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do, hi-ho, hi-ho.
Here's Retta coming up the bluff. She had injured her leg the first week we were in Alaska and was on crutches for 2 weeks. So we're grateful that she was able to recover enough to come up here and help us out on the bluff. Let's take a look at what Bob's got on. He's got his knee pads, steel-toed boots. Keeps the rocks away from your knees and off your toes. And he's got a pick hammer here. Got his baseball cap and his bug net and some leather gloves on. Over here you see Meta putting down a whisk broom to help sweep these rocks off. So with that pick hammer, you're able to get into this compacted dirt and break it apart and just start working in between the cracks and bring it down as much dirt as you can. Having a bug net handy for those no-wind days is really nice to keep those mosquitoes and flies off your face while you're working. So you can see there's a lot of material here to dig out and run. And looking down into the creek here, Deadwood Creek, and across over to where that exposed bedrock is. Paul had his camper parked on that bluff last year while he was working over here. So let's just take a minute here and enjoy the sights and the sounds of prospecting on the bluff. You can see we had a lot of rock overburden thrown out of that pit, and there's another pit in the trees here, so we had to clear all these rocks off as we were moving deeper into the bluff. You can see the slope that we had to work here. It's almost vertical as we start taking these blocks down, and these blocks are quite heavy.
This is what we do when we're not dredging. Entertainment.
For entertainment purposes only. You can see after a couple of hours we're starting to get some material in our pit there. We can run through the high banker. Bob, as he breaks these rocks apart, he starts to get this piles of dirt up here, and so it's a lot easier to switch off with your scoop pick instead of the pick hammer that you use to break apart this dirt. Using this little scoop here will help you get a lot of this dirt out of there quickly. All right, we got about a yard of material ready to run through the high banker, so it's time to set the pump up in the creek. We got the Honda GX200 with a P180 pump. So we'll use some 1.5" lay flat from the pump going up to the side of the hill, and then from there we'll take 1.5" flex tubing that'll make the corners really nicely into the tube. Alright, we're set up, and let's run some material down this tube into the high banker. So Bob and I would do 50 shovelfuls each, and then we'd trade off so we wouldn't get too tired. We had Moretta down here tending the sluice, keeping the rocks out of the hopper and away from the sluice. And on our runoff we made a couple of settling ponds for the water to flow into before it went into the creek to keep it as clear as we could. And here's GPAA members TJ and Jen working over on the right side of the bluff. So we just ran 240 rounded shovelfuls through the high banker. It's time to get some cleanup here. We got some boulders to move around and keep our space so we can work in there safely. See Bob discussing the rocks, all that overburden. You can see on top that big pile of rocks we had to constantly push back as we were going forward into the bluff. Had to move these big boulders around, and space was getting to be a premium. It was getting kind of hard to lift them up over these piles, so you get a real good workout on some of these boulders, and sometimes it takes two people to get them to move. Having a really good pry bar is also a necessity here. Alright, end of the shift here. Time to head back to camp and run our concentrates through the gold cube and see what we got for the day. Alright, you can hear the wind picking up a little bit, which means we can take those bug nets off our face. But once again, here's this Can-Am. It's really coming in handy, not only to haul our equipment down here, but to haul our butts back to camp as well as all our concentrates. Kind of a steep little hill coming down into the creek. Back to camp, it's time to run the concentrates through the gold cube. We got a recirc system here for our gold cube. Pippin to the right.
Never really got any of this end of it.
See the solar panels off to the left there to keep our battery charged for the gold cube. The Harbor Freight storage shed in the background was very nice to have. It was very sturdy, held up to the hurricane force winds very nicely. Here you can see we're running the trommel setup on top of the gold cube. One caution here when working in this area is you're going to lose nuggets off the end of this thing. So catch all your rocks if you're going to do that and physically look through them. And also we used a metal detector and found a couple we missed. Okay, now it's time for Marietta to work her magic and take those concentrates and see how much gold is in there. First revealed is showing some gold on top, which is looking very good. Marietta has the patience of a saint to keep that gold clean, and you can see her work in this pan. 2.5 grams from that 240 shovelfuls, not too bad. Alright, there's the bluff. Here's a nice beginning picture. And on our test, 10 buckets on the right side was 0.5, 10 buckets from the middle was 0.3, and the best was 10 buckets from the left was 0.6. Hiking up to this scree field here, I did find a ravine coming down, emptying out right on top of this left side, so that may be why it's better. We hope you found this informative. If you like us, please subscribe, and we hope to see you in episode 3.